Hi, welcome to another episode of Luncheonette with Laura Diaz. That's me, and I'm excited about the episode we're bringing to you today. We have a special guest, Michelle Serino. She's with ChildNet, and we're going to be talking to you about Runaways. I know this is a topic that many of you are dealing with in your day-to-day life, so we're excited to get Michelle on board and have a discussion on how we can deal with this situation. First, I have a few announcements I wanted to go over with you. I don't know if you've had a chance to go to our newly designed just-in-time training website, but if you've gone through our old web address, which is www.qpiflorida.com, it's actually going to take you to the main QPI page, and that's going to have a lot of stuff specific to QPI's strategies and initiatives and the CBCs, and there's a gateway through that which will take you to the website that you're used to, which is our just-in-time training website. And for those of you who don't know, I am the just-in-time training coordinator, and I'm looking forward to receiving training requests from all of you and also having you get online to see all the wonderful videos that we have available there. Okay, next up, we have coming up a Foster Adoption Kinship Awareness Day that's going to be on April the 11th. And I hope to see all of you guys in Tallahassee marching on the Capitol steps to bring awareness to our cause to all the legislators up there. Florida State Foster Adoptive Parent Association is sponsoring this, and it's going to be a great opportunity to make everybody aware of the work that we do and the needs of the children in care. Okay, on June the 21st through the 23rd, we're going to be having the annual Florida State Foster Adoptive Parent Association Education Conference. Is going to be held in Orlando this year. And it's a great time to get some great education and have fun and mingle with other foster parents, so I hope to see everyone out there as well. And last but not least, if you go to our website, you're going to see a recently posted video that we've done. It is on evidence-based strategies for toilet training and addressing common toileting problems. So it's a great video, and I hope you guys can take a look at that and share that with other foster families or other caregivers that you know that might be dealing with day-to-day issues related to toilet training. So that is the end of my announcements, and with that, I'm going to introduce Michelle. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Laura. How are you?
Doing great, thanks. You want to give everybody a little introduction of yourself?
Sure. I began working in foster care about 10 to 12 years ago. I was fortunate to become part of the statewide behavior analysis services program at that time. And one of my roles in that program was to help to adapt the essential tools for positive parenting curriculum to use with teenagers, make it something that's useful to them. So I worked a lot at that point with teenagers in the group homes and in foster homes and even in classroom settings, building their skills. And obviously, having done that, bump into a lot of runaway behavior. That's kind of where my skill set comes from.
Well, and leading right into runaway behaviors, that's our topic today. So I guess I wanted to just start with a really general question. And why do children run away?
You know, if you ask kids why they're running away and they're willing to talk, they'll give you a myriad reasons for it. But I think that it really breaks down nicely into two different categories. There's kids that are running to, and there's kids that are running from. You know, and in the category kids running to, I think I'd put things like running to see biological parents, running to neighborhoods that maybe they were removed from that they're more familiar with, running to do things that, you know, we might not like but are really age-typical teenager behaviors, smoking marijuana and engaging in, you know, behaviors with their boyfriends and girlfriends, those kinds of things. In the category running from, teenagers being teenagers, they're impetuous, they're impulsive, they lack a lot of the conflict resolution skills we'd like them to have, so they're often running from what they see as unfair rules or boundaries in the home. They're running from conflicts with the foster parents, they're running from conflicts with other peers, running from situations that are difficult for them at school. And if you look at it that way, are they running to or are they running from, I think it helps us to get a better handle on why are they running.
Well, that's interesting, Michelle. We had posted a request for some questions to come in from our viewers, and one of the comments that came in from a foster parent is that she had two teen girls at one point in her foster parent journey that had run away, and they ran two boyfriends, and when the police brought them back, the police said, well, why are they running away from you? And she said, they're not running away from here, they're running to their boyfriend. So it's funny that you bring that up, and that was this exact situation situation that she had mentioned. But a question that I have is this specific to teenagers, or do you see this happening with other age groups of children as well?
Unfortunately, we do see younger kids outside of their placements. It's been my experience that it's typically kids between the ages of 12 and 17, but I have bumped into some younger kids that are running away. That runaway looks a little bit different, I think. Those kids don't tend to be out overnight. It tends to just be I've gotten angry or upset and I'm taken off for a little while, and hopefully they end up safely back where they need to be.
Okay, what are some strategies that you could give to foster parents to deal with a situation when they have either a child that has run away, or maybe they get a new placement and they have some concerns that child may potentially run away at some point?
I think if you have a child that has in the past engaged in runaway behavior or is now engaging in runaway behavior, the best place to start with is the why. Why is this child running from the home? Because what we'd like to do ideally is to meet that child's needs in a safe environment, in a safe way. When I suggest that, sometimes caregivers are overwhelmed by the idea of why, and they'll say, these are things, I have an idea of why the child is leaving. The child is leaving to see their boyfriend, etc. I just don't feel like it's within my control. And I suggest that parents look a little bit more closely at the why, and they might find that there is a lot of room for us to influence children when we look a little more closely. For instance, a lot of the 15, 16-year-old kids that I work with are running to participate in gang activities. And we kind of have an understanding of why kids might be drawn to gangs. There's that intense sense of belonging and camaraderie. Can we give that at home? I think that we definitely can. I think we can create an environment where we're intensely linked together and where we support each other immensely. So I think that there is room for parents to influence even when they don't think that they had the ability to influence. The example you brought up before with the girls that are running to see their boyfriends, if there's some room there for you to negotiate with your children, then you'll have more options. Can your boyfriend spend the night? No, he can't spend the night, but I'll tell you what I can offer. We can give you this semi-private area of the house where you guys can watch a movie and we'll order a pizza, and as opposed to being out on the street where you're in danger and you don't know what you're going to do for excitement or what you're going to do to entertain yourselves. You can be here where you're safe and still enjoy your boyfriend's company. He's just going to have to leave by midnight. I think kids are receptive to that kind of thing. If you have a child that's coming into your home and maybe hasn't engaged in that behavior, I still think that teaching negotiation skills is absolutely essential. I find that that's probably the most critical skill missing. The most critical skill the teenagers are lacking that I work with. If you can, in your home, directly teach kids to negotiate, model negotiating skills when they're watching you and reinforce any efforts to negotiate, I think you're giving a lifelong skill set. I know that kids skip school because they lack the ability to go up to their math teacher and say, hey, I fell behind, or I don't get this, or I missed this because I was on Runaway, but I want to bring my grade back up. They quit their part-time jobs because they lack the ability to say, I don't like this position, I don't want to work behind the register, or I can't take these hours. They leave their foster homes over simple things. Simple things like, when can I and can I not use my cell phone? What is my curfew going to be? Am I allowed to have friends from my old neighborhood come by, or can you drop me somewhere? And if we give them the skills to negotiate those things, to approach a foster parent and say, hey, here's what I'm seeing, I think that we'll find that they'll be much more stable. You could teach those skills directly. As I mentioned to you previously, Laura, there's a tool that we've designed that step by step teaches kids, this is how you come at me and negotiate. And if it was my home, I would say to a child coming in the door, hey, you know what? We have conflicts here. And it's a good thing. It's how we work through stuff. Here's how we handle conflict in this home. Follow these steps, and let's go through it, while nobody's heated during a time of stable functioning. Let's just look at this tool and figure out how we go through it. Let's do a role play. Let's practice. And having done that, when a conflict does arise, you can just note that. Remember that tool we talked about. Let's go through those steps.
Okay, great. And just for all of you to know, we are attaching this tool. So take a look. There's going to be a link, and you can download it and use it, whenever you want to start the negotiation training in your home.
Absolutely. It's also essential, I think, that we model those negotiation skills. Kids are watching us. They're listening to us when we talk about what we've had, what's gone on at work during the day. They're watching us when we interact with our other family members, when we interact with our friends, looking for signs that we're approachable, looking for signs that we're safe and consistent and fair. So in addition to teaching your kid to negotiate, you want to demonstrate that you're the kind of person that can be approached and in a safe and fair manner can work through things. And lastly, reinforcing baby steps. If your child's first step is to come up and say, hey, these rules suck, then you say, great, thanks for letting me know. Let's sit down and talk about what alternatives might be. Don't expect that a child is going to walk up to you and say, excuse me, but if you have a few minutes, I'd like to chat with you about how we might change things.
That would be nice, right? Do you suggest, Michelle, that maybe when we get a new placement, should we sit down at the table and have a conversation about, our house rules and see how they feel about those, and then maybe start sort of a negotiation process right off the bat with them?
Absolutely. I always recommend that. And then, you'll adjust that as you get to know the child. The child gets to know you, and you see where you can trust them. They see where they can trust you. But definitely starting off by setting some clear expectations. It's very important.
What do you think about this situation? I'm a little bit of a control freak, okay? And sometimes I have a hard time when a child doesn't want to do what I've asked them to do, and we kind of end up butting heads. What would you say to me, like, how should I negotiate with myself, or kind of work through this myself, to be able to find that common ground and not have them against me where they're almost doing things to spite me?
I think that there's a lot that goes into that question. The first thing I would recommend is that you find some quiet time for yourself where you could step away from the situation. Not when you're feeling heated, not when you're feeling pressured. Take some time and really look at what are your concerns. Then look at what is it you'd like to see instead. Oftentimes we're able to point out, this is what's driving me crazy, this is what I can't tolerate in my home, but what are you looking for? And then factor in some wiggle room there. Where are you willing to negotiate? Yes, you think it's appropriate that a child be home by 10 o'clock. Would you be willing to go 10:30? Would you be willing to go 10 o'clock, but your friends can hang out until 11? So take that time to yourself before you even approach a child to decide what it is that you're looking for, and to define that clearly, and also to look for where you're willing to have some give. I think that it's very empowering to children when you're talking about that pushback kind of thing. It's very empowering to children for them to have a little bit of room to negotiate with you. In fact, if I knew that I wanted my child to be home at 10 o'clock, I might say 9:45 just so that they can negotiate 10 o'clock, and then we would both feel like we got to a good place.
That's a good idea. Now, what about if we've talked this out and we sat down and I said, okay, you need to be home by 10:30, and then they come home at 11. What do you think would be a best strategy as far as consequences? Because I know, okay, on one hand, they came home, and I don't want to make them think next time, all right, I've already missed curfew, I'm in trouble, I may as well stay out till 2 a.m. because I'm going to get in trouble either way. But I, as the parent, am upset, like, hey, you broke my curfew and you're going to get in trouble. So how do I work through that with them?
I think the first step is recognizing that if coming, if running away is an inappropriate behavior, or staying out late is an inappropriate behavior, clearly coming home is an appropriate behavior. That's not the time for us to give a negative consequence or to try to punish behavior. When the child comes home, we want to reward the fact that they've chosen to come home. A half hour is less significant, but when I think about children that are gone for an extended period of time, I think it's essential that we recognize that kids come home when the balance shifts. Kids come home when it now looks better to be home than it does to be out. Sometimes that's just that the kid I was out with is no longer with me. Sometimes it's that I've run out of things to do. Sometimes I really need a shower. Sometimes I'm really hungry. Sometimes I'm really tired. Sometimes I just got beaten up or raped or robbed. When a child decides that home is the better place to be, I don't want to interfere with that. When they walk in the door, I want to show them absolutely home is definitely the better place to be. But again, in loving a child, we hold them accountable. That's very, very important. So I suggest using a fender bender analogy. Your child's driving your car and they rear end somebody. The first thing you're going to say is, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're safe. Is there anything that you need? Do you need to see a doctor? Are you hurt, etc.? And then after that, when everybody's kind of through the emotions of it, you need to have a sit down. Now it's time to come back to the table and say, we had some expectations here. You were clear on the expectations. There was going to be some consequences. Somebody's got to make amends for the damages done. And what are we going to do going forward so that this is not an issue again?
Okay, I like that analogy, because I know the heat of the moment sometimes can be a positive thing, like you said, where you're, concerned about their safety, but then you want to turn around and kill them, right? Just kidding about the killing them. But so I've had another question that's come up recently from foster parents, and that sometimes they feel like they're just not doing the right thing and they kind of get defeated, what kind of advice would you give them when they just feel like everything they do, they're concerned that it's just not quite the right thing?
I think it's a lot of pressure we put on ourselves. We want to make sure that we're saying the right thing at the right time and that we're responding the right way at the right time. I think it's important to remember that relationships are about collections of interactions, not just one interaction here or there. We do our best in every interaction to make the most of it, but it's the collection over time. I had a colleague that used to say that each positive interaction is like putting money in the bank. And you could tap into that money that you've saved up later when things aren't going as well. And I think that's an important way to look at it. Over time, what kids need to see is just that we are consistently safe, we're consistently fair, we're consistently loving towards them. There was a child that I worked with for a number of years. She's an adult now, and she has her own daughter. I met her when she was 12 years old, and she engaged in quite a bit of runaway behavior. I picked her up from any number of places and settled her back in and took phone calls late at night, and I was always very candid and loving and honest. I'm going to take your phone call. I'm going to give you some feedback on your behavior, and we're going to work on where you're going to be next. And oftentimes I would get off the phone and think, oh my gosh, I hope I wasn't too strong. I hope I wasn't, maybe I wasn't strong enough in my wording, and I would worry about where she was going to be until I'd see her again. But maybe 4 years ago, I got a call from her, and she said, Michelle, I met the one. This guy is the one. And I giggled, and she giggled, because we were both very aware that she'd met the one about 50 times over the years. But she said, no, I'm serious. This is the guy I would take home to meet my family. And I don't have a family to take him home to. I have you. I'd like to introduce him to you. And I'm actually getting goosebumps talking about it right now. At that moment, I knew that collectively over the years, I had done my best for her, that I had served her well, that I had been a person that she felt that she could call, that she could reach out to, that she could share important things in her life with. I think that's an easier goal. Can we keep a child from making a decision we don't want them to make? That's part of parenting a teenager, is that they're going to make poor decisions, and we're going to support them when they come back and help them to make better ones. But if over time we can be fair and consistent and loving, hold the child accountable while caring about them and caring for them, I think that we get them to where they need to be, and they grow to trust because of that.
I like that story. I know a lot of times we're so concerned about how they're feeling about what we're doing right now, and we forget, hey, they're kids and they're teens, and we can look back even on our own, childhood and say, now I know why my parents did that, and almost appreciate those rules and those boundaries, and because then we can realize it was for our own good. Even at the time we hated them for it and we wanted to rebel against it. So I think that's an important point that you're bringing home, is that, it's a process, and day by day we're going to learn from these experiences, and hopefully they see through it and they know that, they're being tough on me because they love me. They're trying to keep me safe. And I think if we keep driving that home, hey, we're not just doing this or setting these rules and trying to keep you from running away to your boyfriend because we're trying to be mean. Quite the contrary, we're trying to protect them. So I think that's a good point. I love your story. So do you have any more advice, any other suggestions as far as, some techniques I think that we as foster parents could just implement even from that young age that you were talking about, those preteens, that can start moving us in the right direction and dealing with them running away?
Again, I think there's nothing more important than teaching and reinforcing and demonstrating good, solid conflict resolution negotiation skills, and also creating what we would call in the Behavior Analysis Services Program, we would call it a stay close environment, an environment where we can talk to each other. Doesn't mean I'm always going to agree with what you say, but again, I'm going to be safe and fair and consistent. So just across the board, when a 5-year-old wants to show you how fantastic her ballet moves are, you stop and you pay attention and you comment on it. When your 8-year-old wants to show you some kind of karate move, you stop and you comment on it, you pay attention to that. You put the time in and you exchange, you have dialogue with the children across all different settings. Show that you're interested, show that you care about what they have to say, show that you've got this. You can hold ground here and you can keep them safe, but you can also respect who they are as a child and who they are as an individual and as a person. And over time, I think that you'll find that the children come to you with more and more significant conversational topics. And that might be how we both find out information about where the children are going when they're not in our home, and also keep them coming back to our home and staying in our home longer and longer.
Okay, that's good. I like that a lot. I'm going to start working on these techniques right away in my own house. with my 6-year-old. So that when the tough times come, we've built that foundation of good communication and the negotiating skills. Do you oftentimes, if you have a household that has many children in it, let's say, you know, a cross between your biological children, your adopted children, your foster children, do you recommend doing sometimes these things in a group, kind of a family meeting or a planning session, or do you find it's better on a one-on-one basis?
I think it depends on the child. I use these tools, I teach them directly to the teenagers in group settings and individually. In the group settings, sometimes I think that it's more effective because here's a 15-year-old saying, this is weird, 15-year-olds don't necessarily talk this way, 15-year-olds just storm out of the house, it's what we do, and other 15-year-olds are demonstrating it, being reinforced for it, they're seeing that it can work, it kind of brings them together. The other thing is that if you have good negotiation skills, that's fantastic, but you need the person on the other side to be receptive to it. So if you're looking at having children negotiate appropriately with each other, it's absolutely essential you practice with both sides. In a group is fantastic. If I teach my 16-year-old daughter how to work through something with one of her friends, and her friend doesn't have the same skill set, my daughter's still done the right thing, but she's not going to get the outcome that she's looking for. So I'd say a little bit of both. Depends on the child, but a little bit of both. And definitely with the teen groups, having them kind of work together, you know, on those skills so that they understand where the other is coming from, I think helps to further strengthen the skill set.
Okay, well, thank you so much for the time that you've shared with us today in this important topic. And guys, I hope that you've learned something and this is going to help you in your journey with these children. And I want to thank Michelle for joining us and just for sharing the tools also that we're going to post online here for you, so that if this comes up in the future, that the tools will always be available. And again, thanks for participating in another episode of Luncheonette with Laura Diaz. We're looking forward to our next episode. I hope you can join us. We're going to be dealing with children and anger and how we deal with anger, and giving you some more tips and techniques that you can use in, again, your day-to-day journey in foster parenting. Hey guys, now don't forget, we want to hear from you. This show is for you. So email us at qpiflorida@usf.edu. Send us your ideas for suggestions, topics, any questions that you might have, and we're looking forward to helping you in your day-to-day journey in foster parenting. So look forward to hearing from you. Also, don't forget those training requests. We're here to set up our regular webcast trainings as you need them as well. So in the Just in Time Florida website, there's the request training button, and hit that and fill it out and send it to us, and we'd be happy to help you in any way we can. So hope you enjoyed our show today with Michelle, and looking forward to seeing you again next week. Have a great week.